How are you? I hope you all are good today. I'm just in my daughter feeding her dog next door. And my grandchildren, just as I was about to click go live, were trying to call me on Messenger. So if you are watching Micah, Zafira and Peyton, I'm sorry, but I can't take your call right now. But I'm going to see you this afternoon. They're still trying to call me. I'm just quickly going to go on and host a watch party. I did go on to have a look at to get this get it sorted before, but then I found out that a friend of mine in Christchurch has had her baby and got distracted, as you do. So congratulations, Lizzie. That's amazing. It's really funny when you've known people since they were babies and now they're having babies. Makes you feel a little bit old. Anyway, right, okay, that looks good. So welcome this morning, and we're getting to the place where it's looking like lockdown's going to end. We've all done so incredibly well with our I didn't like what start. We've done incredibly well. And my grandkids are calling again. Hi, Josiah. But I got to say, it's been a tough morning for me. So I've already had a bit of a boo-hoo. And so if I'm a bit emotional, I don't apologise. Hey, Joe and Stan. Yeah, I've been away, as I told you last week, was away down south, and it's really funny. Every time I go down there, I hope for snow, and it never snows when I'm there. Hey, Michelle. But it always snows when I've left. And it has been. Hey, Running Glennis, so nice to see you. I just can't wait to see you all for real and in person. And, if we go to level 1 this week, even though I've emailed you all and said we're not going to meet until the 21st, we will meet on the 14th because we'll be able to, and it'll be nice. It'll be normal. It'll be as close to normal as we're going to get. And the only thing will be that we'll need to check in with each other whether or not we can hug. It's going to have to be something that we can ask each other. Or I forgive you a hug. And I know for me, it'll be a yes. Anyway, where's me message? Where's my stuff? It's definitely after 10. We're not going to have a Zoom today because we're having. I nearly said her name. We're having Jellybean's birthday party this afternoon, and I've done nothing to get ready for it. So if you want to have a Zoom, then somebody else can host it and put it on the Te Atatū Baptist page. But we haven't had that many people joining. Morning, Keith. Yeah, so if you want to do that, then you can. You can Zoom just with a couple of other people. I've got to say, people, that we're going to do communion first, by the way. So if you want to race off and grab anything, something to drink, something to eat, a cup of tea, some toast, whatever it is that you have in front of you to eat will be fine. And you also might want to grab your Bible. I really struggled this week to know what to do this morning. I have been so shocked by what has happened to George Floyd and then the subsequent protests and racism that has been all over our screens. The racism that we are watching, but they are living. I've preached every Sunday since lockdown started 11 weeks ago, and to be honest, it's been really tough and quite stressful for many different reasons. This week I was wondering how we as a church could do something that shows we stand with people, with the people of colour in America and all over the world, and say it's got to stop. I just didn't want to pray about it all at the end of today's message and that be it. I wanted to send a message by our actions. Anyway, COVID-19 restrictions didn't allow me to do that. Then I decided I would find 2 videos from people of colour and show them instead of me preaching. But then on Friday night, God gently said to me, and he always speaks gently to me, I was just thinking about this before, that I don't feel like I've ever had a harsh word from God. And I'm so thankful for that. Anyway, that's a bit of a side issue, but anyway, yes, I felt God gently saying to me, you can do it. You've got this. So I spent yesterday writing the message, struggling because I know that I am a white woman speaking about racism, and I really, really don't want to offend anyone. I felt like every time I came up with a good idea, someone would tell me that I couldn't or shouldn't do that or say that. Anyway, I woke this morning at 6 a.m, which is too early for me. I don't get to sleep usually till midnight, often afterwards. But this is happening a lot to me at the moment. So I asked God, why am I waking up so early? It's making me exhausted. And he said to me, just like that, lean into me. Lean in. I've been praying about whether or not I should find out if I could keep Jellybean. And God said to me after he told me to lean in, and I did lean in, he said to me, be her advocate and stand up for her in the plan that they, as the social workers, will make for her, and be her nana. So this morning as she was standing by the table, she said nana for the first time. And I knew that she was not mine to keep, so I will just keep loving her, but won't keep her. So all of this stuff that I've just told you, and either on top of it or underneath it all, I just really want Roger to come back. So that's why this morning's been a little bit tough for me. Dang, I meant to grab my tissues. Anyway, this morning we are going to lean into God. We are going to bring him our stuff. This morning we are going to lean into God. We are going to ask him for his help. This morning we are going to lean into God and give him thanks for our lives just the way they are. Some of our lives are a whole lot broken, some of them not. This morning we are going to lean into God and give thanks for Jesus, God incarnate, who died so that we can lean into him with confidence. We can lean in with confidence that he will say, I got you. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we lean into you today. We bring out all to you, the good, the bad, and the tough stuff. We come and give thanks to you for our lives, and we ask you to help with your peace and your love and faithfulness. We ask for your forgiveness for the things that we have done that were not right. We come and we thank you that you are the most amazing, almighty God. So if you've got your communion with you this morning, then please join as we eat to remember his body broken for us so that we could be whole, and to drink to remember that his blood was shed so that we could receive the forgiveness of God and have that bridge that means we can have an intimate personal relationship with him, not held back by anything. So, if we always do what we've always done, we will always get what we've always got. This is why racism is still alive and well. not only in America, but here in New Zealand. So I'm going to start with the meaning of racism, and I found it in a few different places. So racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed to someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. Racial prejudice and bigotry, racialism, xenophobia, chauvinism, bigotry, which by the way is intolerance towards those who hold different opinions from oneself, bias, intolerance, anti-Semitism, apartheid, which means a policy of system of segregation or discrimination on the grounds of race. Racism is the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics, abilities, or qualities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. I'm going to read that last bit again. Racism is the belief that all members of each race possess characteristics, abilities, or qualities specific to that race, especially so as to distinguish it as inferior or superior to another race or races. Being not racist is not enough. It's not enough. We need to be anti-racist. A few weeks ago, I was talking to somebody about racism and they burst into tears. And they said that they had experienced it here amongst us. I am floored by that. If we ever in our church whānau, if we ever see or hear racism, then we need to call it out. When God made us, he didn't think, I'll make them with different skin colour so they can judge and bully each other because of it. He made us black, brown, white, olive, red, freckled, plain, caramel, and all the tones of skin that are mixed by multi-ethnic marriages. He made us tall, short, fat, skinny, brown hair, black hair, red, blonde, ginger, blue eyes, brown eyes, green, hazel, black eyes. He made us all different. We serve a God who delights in the human dignity and worth of all humanity. That word all is such a tiny word, but it has so much power and so much meaning. We serve a God who delights in the human dignity and worth of all humanity. I want to challenge us all, when we're reading our Bible this week, when we see that word all, I want us to read that scripture 10 times with the word all emphasized. I just think we undervalue that word, if that's possible. The Bible shows us a unified church in Revelations, chapter 7, verse 9, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. So I was mortified when I heard that somebody in our church might have faced racism. It's not cool. It's not acceptable. This is not from God, and it is not of God. So let's establish first that racism is not Christian or a godly value, just in case anyone somehow thinks it is. Racism is actually an attack on the image of God that has been given to every one of us by our Creator. Genesis 5, 1-3 says, "In the day when God created man, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female. He blessed them and called them mankind in the day when they were created. Adam lived 130 years and became the father of a son in his own likeness, after his own image, and called his name Seth." So if God created Adam in his likeness, and then Adam had Seth in his likeness, that's something that has continued to be passed down and down and down through the generations. We all have God's likeness in us. We are made in his image. Because each person has been created by God, we are all united together with him and with each other. Racism rejects what God has done by refusing to acknowledge the image of God in each other, in the stranger, in the ones who are different. The fact that we were created in the image of God should remind us that each person is a living expression of God. I love that. I wonder how I am a living expression of God. Maybe that's a question we could ask ourselves this week. How am I a living expression of God? That must be respected and preserved and never dishonoured. A living expression of God. The Bible also says, search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me and lead me in the way of everlasting. That's Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24. That is my all-time favourite chapter of the Bible. If I could only have one chapter to base my whole relationship with God on, it would probably be that. I love it. As I said the other night on Westy Wednesday, we need to check our racism. It can be like a ninja and sneak up on us. Often we don't know it's there and we don't recognise it. So I had asked Prina to sit with me this morning to answer some questions, because I thought that would be really cool. But she got called into work this morning, so we had a bit of a chat, and I'd already written the questions down, and so I just gave her my computer and said, can you just write your answers? And I haven't read her answers to any of the questions, so when I'm reading them for the first time. So we we talked about this last night, that I'm talking again back to how racism can sneak up on us and we don't recognise it. We don't recognise that we have it, that we are racist. So my question to Prina is, can you give us some examples of what it might look like when people are unintentionally racist and how that feels for you? Name calling. And her response is, there are moments where people make stereotypical comments about my race. A common one is curry muncher, or since we wear the red dot on our foreheads, we are called recording machines. These comments are usually followed by laughter to lessen the blow. Personally, I shrug it off because I've become so desensitized to the subtle racism. However, I know that many of my friends that are people of colour usually don't realise what's going on till later on. So hard not to have her here, because if she was here, I would ask her, firstly, I would say, I'm really sorry. But then I would want to ask her, I'd want to talk to her about these comments are usually followed by laughter to lessen the blow. Wow, we are so good at doing that as Kiwis and maybe other cultures, but I've only lived in New Zealand, so speaking as a New Zealander, and we do that. We make a snide comment, whether it's racist or not, and then we laugh to lessen the blow. So yeah, Prina says that she shrugs it off because she's become desensitized to it, but I know that she's not really desensitized, and it just continues to wound her. So I'm going to read a few more scriptures. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. That's Ephesians 4:32. And then John 17:21. Christ prayed, may they all be one. 1 John 4:20. If anyone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he's a liar. For whoever does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God who he has not seen. That's a good one. I've read so much this week. I don't know about you. I've just read article about racism. I was reading one about from Dr. David Tokiharu Maeda. He's a senior lecturer in sociology and criminology at the University of Auckland. And in an article that he wrote, he says tongue-in-cheek, hey, at least here in our Aotearoa, we don't have to worry about this, right? Think again. Just 5 years ago, the New Zealand police admitted they have a problem with unconscious bias against Māori. That's racism. So how do we fix this? By designing pirihimana cars for Māori Language Week. That's tokenism. By arming special police units to patrol Manukau, Waikato and Canterbury. That's militarism. No, you don't want to problem solve. Just like America, it's time we communicate deeply about racism. And for those of you who don't experience it, be publicly anti-racist and support those of us who do. So I thought that was really great. His whole article was really good, actually. If we leave this to go unchecked, it could well end up like the issue in America. Prina called me out on Wednesday night when I was doing the Westy Wednesday and said, it's a race war in America. She said, it's not a race war. We're trying to end this race war. The whole point is no one race. So how important is it that we are all against racism? Again, there's that word all, that we are all anti-racist. Prina's answer to that question is it's so very important that we realise that this isn't about what race is better than the other, which is where most people get defensive about the situation. We all have to be anti-racism and not anti one another. That's a good answer, Prina. The biggest thing would also be that we all can be racist. I can be a racist as a person of colour. I've asked Prina to help me. I've told her she needs to call me out. Somebody said I'm here. Oh, I'm just reading some more people who've joined in. It hasn't moved up. So, James, if you're still watching, hey, and hey, Alethea and Gail, and Hannah and Laura, and John, and Nikki and Scott. And Libby. Sorry, though, for some reason that's not letting me see that like it normally does. So what did I just say? Yeah, I've asked her to help me understand, to help me check my racism, help me check my white privilege, which is a whole nother message. And I'm going to put a link at the end of this. I'm going to put a link to an amazing, I'm just going to see if I can quickly go to it. See what it's called. It's a what do you call this? A webinar that Laura shared, and thanks for sharing that, Laura. It's called White Fragility. Why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism. And I mean, the funny thing is, she's a white person, but it's really good, challenging. Yeah. I'm going to put the link to that in the comments after, because I think it's so important. So there's a whole lot of bing bongs happening on the computer that's out there. I'm sorry if you can hear that. We have been on a bicultural journey that's been taking years as a church. For many of us, it has been a wonderful experience to understand the culture and tikanga of our Māori culture. For me as a Pākehā, I don't always get it right. I guess I need to say right here, if I say something today that is offensive to anybody, then please message me about that and I will apologise for it, because it is never my intention. I often ask kohine and arahia things, and sometimes we seek advice from other Māori kaumātua. One of the things that Prina said was that sometimes our attempts to be inclusive feels like tokenism. And this is the last thing I want for or from our church. I am certainly genuine in my desire to be inclusive and accepting, and to be open for us to grow as a church and for me to grow as an individual and as a pastor. So my question to Prina is, how can we stop that from happening? How can we make it so that what we do doesn't feel like tokenism? And her answer is, things shouldn't be forced. Consistently publicising that we are a diverse church can sometimes make it seem as though we don't really care about the people, but more of what everyone else thinks about us. That's a good answer. Although most churches are predominantly white, it will definitely take people of colour time and a lot of healing before they feel welcome. Wow, that's like I said to you earlier, I haven't heard the answers to these questions, and that makes me feel so sad. Although most churches are predominantly white, it will definitely take people of colour a lot of healing before they feel welcome. I hope if you are people who regularly attend our church, I hope that you are hearing this. It's not okay. You need to lean in and listen. Listen to the voices of people of colour. Listen to the heart of God. Lean in. Listen. Repeating the same actions over and over again and expecting the outcome to be different has long been considered the height of absurdity. So Dr. Robin DiAngelo, excuse me, and she's the one who's doing the webinar that I will link. She says we all have opinions, but that doesn't mean they are informed opinions. We need to lean in and listen to people of colour. I remember when I watched the movie 12 Years a Slave, I felt embarrassed to be white. Absolutely embarrassed. Sorry, I'm just going, hey, Christine. Keith, you're going to make me cry. Oh, it's an emotional day for me, people. Oh, dear. Anyway. Yeah, I felt embarrassed to be a white person when I'd watched that movie. I don't know about you. If you haven't watched it, then I encourage you to do so. I have got a massive list of movies. That's the other thing I'm going to put in the comments is a couple of links to some amazing movies and a whole lot of movies that we just should be watching that will help us. It will help us as Pākehā to understand, and that's how we can lean in and listen. I also encourage you to lean in and listen to any podcasts or any videos that are done by people of colour. So Prina also said to me that sometimes it can just be the way that someone looks at you when you walk into the building on a Sunday morning, or any building or any shop for that matter. Do you think, my question to her is, and this was a hard question to ask because I don't believe this. Do you think that you are oversensitive to that? Maybe reading into something that is not there. Again, I asked her that question not because that's what I think, but because I think we need to hear her answer. This is a common question that many people ask, but if you ask any person of colour, they would tell you that they just know. Holy heck. We just know when we are being looked at differently. We know when someone is just glancing or someone is being racist. Although it might be hard for someone to believe, it brings into the conversation that maybe you don't understand because you haven't experienced something like that all your life. I also think that it's rude to think that people are being overly sensitive. You cannot tell people what to feel. Thank you, Brina. Especially with things such as racism. Oh, gosh. I'm going to read that whole answer again. So I'm going to read the question. Do you think that you are oversensitive to that? And again, it's not a question that I asked her because I need to know the answer. But I think that maybe we all need to know the answer. Maybe you're reading into something that's not there. And her answer is, this is a common question that many people ask. But if you ask any person of colour, they would tell you that they just know. We just know when we are being looked at differently. We know when someone is just glancing or someone is being racist. Although that might be hard for some to believe, it brings into the conversation that maybe you don't understand because you haven't experienced something like that all your life. I also think it's rude to think that people are being overly sensitive. You cannot tell people what to feel, especially with things such as racism. And then I asked, what can I do as a white person to use my privilege to help? And her answer is talk about it. Make yourselves uncomfortable. Have conversations. Call out your friends and family for their funny racism. Even the smallest racist comments can later on build to something much worse. Post on your social media platforms about your support. Remind yourself that you do have privilege, but to use it in every way possible to help your friends. Let me read that again. Post on your social media platforms to support about your support. Remind yourself that I do have privilege, but I will use this in every way to help my friends. It's something that has become very real to me over the last little while is learning about my white privilege and learning to check that. And I'm so thankful, Prina, that you've really helped me with this. And this is a journey. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Abby. Thank you. Hey, Ash. Abby's just saying that Netflix has put the full version of the doco 13th on YouTube for free. I watched that the other night, and I think I have linked it. I think I posted something about it on my Facebook page. And I also know that there's a movie, and it's called Mercy something, which I can't remember off the top of my head because my brain's fried, essentially. Hey, Arahia and Leanne and Ben. So watch those movies. I guess let me, I've sent some challenges already, and I can't remember what they are. But I think I want to challenge you to stop watching what you normally watch, and I'm talking to those of you who are white particularly. Watch movies that are written about people of colour, but particularly if they're written by people of colour. Change your list. Change what you're watching. Documentaries on Netflix. There's a whole lot of documentaries. There's a whole lot of movies, and like I say, I'm going to put some in and some links. I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you felt. And somebody said, listen to people of colour music. Yes, Ben, you're so right. Hey, David. Absolutely. And I think it was the 13th movie that I watched where there's a lot of different snips of music from people of colour. Yeah, anyway, I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you feel. I hope you feel confronted. I have felt confronted. I hope you have by what I've had to say. I hope it's made you feel uncomfortable. And that's the whole idea of it, is that maybe finally white people should feel uncomfortable about racism, and check it. I implore you to check your racism. Abby says there's a thing called scroll check. So you can see how many scrolls it takes you on social media to get to a person of colour that you follow. You'll probably be surprised. That's really interesting. Yeah, so follow people of colour, follow the activists, listen to podcasts. I've posted a lot of stuff. I posted something the other day that had a whole lot of different podcasts that you can listen to. I encourage you to listen to people of colour from New Zealand, listen to Māori people who are posting stuff. And I'm hopeful that next week we can meet together, and that I can hug those of you who are going to be in the hug zone. And if you're not, that's okay. I understand that there'll be people who don't want to hug yet, who are not at that place, and that's okay. So stay tuned. I'll send an email if that's what's going to happen, if we're going to to meet next Sunday. I've moved our auditorium around. I'm just going completely off script now because that's it. But hang on, I've done something. Yeah, I've moved our auditorium around, and church is going to be different. We cannot come back from a pandemic, and we cannot come back from what's happening in our world around racism and be normal. Our normal's different, and so our seating's different. There are some rows of seats for people who really feel that they want to still sit in rows. There are some cafe tables for those who want to sit around a cafe table. Sorry, there are some seats with coffee tables in front of them for those of you who want to sit in a situation like that. And there are also some social distanced seats for those of you who still feel the need to be socially distanced. And if you come in and you can't find something that you want to sit at or some way that you want to sit, then you can move chairs to make it happen. And our church is going to look different. It looks different, actually, because we've done some redecorating, just a little bit. But some people have moved on. Holly has moved to Invercargill. She's gone down there for a new job. And, I'm so sad that we didn't get to pray for her and gather around her and lay hands on her. And we'll pray for her. I'll pray for her today anyway. But we will have some extra people, and they might be different. And I'm glad about that. They might not be. They might be people who have been to our church before and have returned. And I'm real glad about that, if that happens. I think mostly that we are all different. What's happened to us over the last 11 weeks has been huge. And there's so many things that we just won't take for granted. So, yeah, I'm going to pray. Father, you are so amazing, and I love you so much, and I'm so thankful that I don't have to do life on my own ever, that I always have you right there beside me, behind me, in front of me, holding me up sometimes, patting me on the back, telling me that you've got me, that I can trust in your knowledge of everything that's going on in the world, that it doesn't take you by surprise, that you get it. I thank you that you love us anyway, even if we're racist, even if we make mistakes, but that you do want the best for us and you want us to not hurt people. Lord, I thank you for Holly, and I want to pray for her as she settles into a freezing cold city in a new situation where she doesn't know people. She won't know anybody, Lord, down there. And I just pray that she will know that she has the prayers of her church whānau up here. Lord, I pray that, she will settle into her work, and that the flat that she's going into will be great for her. Lord, we thank you for her, and we pray your blessing upon her. We thank you for the joy that she has been to our church and to our whānau, the fun, the knitting, the cheekiness. We thank you for all of that, Lord. Father, I pray for our country this week as we hear about whether or not we go to level 1. And I pray for our Prime Minister and her cabinet, who will meet to decide that on Monday. And Lord, we ask for your wisdom. We ask for calmness upon them, that they don't make the wrong decision because of the pressure of the economy. Lord, I thank you for our country and those who have led us, and the way that we are in the position that we are in now. And I just thank you for that. Lord, I pray for America, and I pray for the people who live there. I pray for the people of colour who are hurting, who are really hurting. I pray for the leadership in America, and I ask that you would have your hand upon them, or that they would be removed. Lord, I pray for the Christians in America, that their hearts would be towards the people of colour, and that they too would be wrestling with this issue just as we are this morning. And I pray that you will help them, Lord, as I've seen the leaders of those churches and the people of those churches to be the ones who care, to be the ones who offer water to the protesters and medical attention. Lord, I pray for our world where there is still a massive pandemic and there are still thousands of people dying every day. People who are mums and dads and children and grandparents, people who are loved but are dying alone. And Lord, I just pray for the families of all of the people who have lost somebody during this pandemic. And I ask that your comfort would be upon them. Lord, I pray that people would stay safe, that they would do the things that they can do to stay safe from the pandemic. Lord, I pray that you'll help us as a church whānau, as people, as Christians, as followers of you, to check our white privilege, to listen, to lean into you, and to lean in and listen to people of colour, to learn, to listen to the podcasts, to listen and watch the movies and the documentaries and the music, to follow, Lord, that we might follow people of colour and hear their voices. Amen. So, God bless you all. I can't say enough how much I can't wait to see you all face to face, eye to eye, hand to hand. And stay safe. We still need to be aware and be careful, and there's no harm in doing that. So I'm off to my Pepe Whāngai, lost a baby's first birthday. So happy birthday, Jellybean. And can you believe it? I can't. Anyway, love you all. Aroha nui, ka kite, o tira tapu. See you all next Sunday.